Hello, Gold participants from around the world. I'm Fleur Bickford, Program Director and MC for Gold Learning. I'm chatting today with Dr. Angie Bond about her upcoming presentation titled Navigating the Knowns and Unknowns of Human Milk Sharing, Facilitating Informed Decisions. She'll be presenting her talk as part of our Gold Lactation Milk Banking and Sharing add-on package. So Angie, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to work with Gold.
Well, we are very excited to have you. And before we get to talking about your presentation, maybe you can just tell our delegates a little bit about yourself and your professional journey.
Sure, my journey to working with lactation is probably a little unusual compared to how most of us wind up here in the field. I began with my bachelor's and master's degree in animal sciences, where I specialized in biosafety and reproductive physiology in the dairy industry and mammary health. When I had my first daughter, I was interested in what to do with my milk because I had a massive overproduction. And my midwife from my daughter's birth, Shell Walker, was actually the founder of Eats on Feets. So that was kind of a natural fit for me to get into advising her and the initial iterations of Eats on Feets' resource and so forth, about what we know about milk sharing, how to dig through the research, and so forth. And then moved into my PhD studies looking specifically at how families who are exchanging milk privately, how do they interview each other, what are those interactions like, and how do they perceive and manage risks that are associated with milk sharing. So that's how I wound up here.
Oh, so interesting. I love that your background was in animal sciences initially. That's so interesting, and how it kind of led to where you are now. It's always fascinating to hear where our speakers come from and how they got to where they are today. So thank you for sharing that. Now, you've already answered a little bit about what sparked your interest in human milk sharing. I'm curious, what has your experience been, just with milk sharing in general? Like, what was part of what made you decide to do this as a presentation?
I think the most pertinent thing is the intensity of emotional connection and the determination that I have to help support families
Mhm.
in having the autonomy and the information that they need to make the best decisions that they can for themselves. And in looking through the literature and comparing it to the background in dairy sciences, where we have very few gaps because we're able to do more kinds of research than is ethically possible to do with human research, being able to bring that very sharp perspective of, this is something that we really need to look at. This is the kind of information that we need to have in order for families and providers and policymakers to be able to make responsible and ethical decisions and have conversations about milk sharing, and being able to bring that perspective of a very complete and intensive body of knowledge to what in many ways is an early body of knowledge with human milk biology and the types of growth and development that infants experience with human milk as compared to, say, formula feeding, has been a really unique opportunity to bridge that bench science or that laboratory science with social sciences and directly helping families and lactation professionals in supporting infants to get human milk.
Oh, it's so fascinating. Thank you for that, Angie. Um, so that brings me to my last question, which is perhaps you can just tell our delegates a little bit about just kind of a sneak peek at what you're going to be covering in the presentation and what you hope the delegates will be able to take away from your presentation to apply in their own practices.
What I hope to do in the early part of the presentation is to introduce what exactly milk sharing is and what it isn't, move from there into what we know specifically about milk sharing, what we assume about milk sharing, and what we don't know about milk sharing, so that everyone has a clear idea of what's based in evidence and what's based in professional assumption. And then to
Mm.
give some very practical, checklists, if you will, that can be used in practice to implement policies and practices that are going to support families while maintaining the professional credibility of individuals who are supporting um, families of young infants in their feeding decisions.
Okay, it sounds wonderful. And I love the I love the point that you make about looking at what we don't know. I think that that's such a key point a lot of the time is, we're often focused on what do we know, but I think that piece of looking at what do we not know and looking at those gaps and where we still need research and making sure that we're looking at, do we know it or not know it, or are we somewhere in between because we're making assumptions about it? So I love
Yes.
that you're going to address that. So that is fantastic. I am really excited about your presentation, and I'm sure that our delegates are as well. For our delegates who are listening, again, you can hear more from Dr. Angie Bond and her presentation titled Navigating the Knowns and Unknowns of Human Milk Sharing, and that'll be as part of the Gold Lactation Milk Banking and Sharing add-on package. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Bye for now.